Yo, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? Good to see you again, and I think it's definitely past time that I made this video. I've been testing a lot of Sakazuki, whether that's on sim, while playing on my Twitch channel, or off stream, or even at locals, where I've been uploading a lot of the matches to the YouTube channel. And I have done so many different iterations of this deck and tried out a bunch of different cards. And slowly but surely, I've found, where I like to be with the list. But this list is so versatile. You can try an incredible amount of different cards, whether that's your top end. But there are cards that basically are necessary, the staple of this deck, and you have to have these. And yeah, I just wanted to go over what essentially those staples are, but also what kind of changes you can make, whether they're one-ofs, two-ofs to the deck, and additions to already existing cards in the list. And yeah, we're going to be going over my main man Sakazuki here. So starting off with the leader, obviously you know the deal. When attacking, Dawn -1 to an opponent's character, but also activate main once per turn. You can trash one card from your hand and draw one card. So absolutely amazing, just being able to cycle out a lot of the cards that might be potentially dead in your hand at the time to get the cards that you need. And then leader's effect to be able to bring -1 to a character cost already. Just a fantastic leader. I think that this will be a powerhouse in the meta to come for multiple sets. But starting with the searcher of the deck, we've got 4 brand new. Brand new is very obvious in this deck and going to be a staple for a very long time, because the card is going to not only simultaneously find you a navy type card, but also it is going to put 2 cards into your trash. That is useful for Luchi, that is useful for Manshari. It's useful for just being able to cycle through a lot of what this deck does. And that is fantastic, because a lot of the times you do want to put some cards into the trash, and just brand new does that for you. Running a 4 of the brand new absolutely makes sense. And then 4 of Suru, your 2k counter. That is where this list does end up having some arguable like RNG issues. Is occasionally I've played a lot of matches where I've just drawn into no 2k counters throughout the match, and it's tough. It's really tough not seeing any of your 2ks. But Suru is just invaluable, being able to be played and using the -2 effect onto a character, but also simultaneously very easy to pitch from hand, can also be cycled based off of what your hand might be at the time. And yeah, Suru definitely gets the job done here. And your other 2k counter is going to be the Tashigi, 4 of, and Tashigi has so many different uses as well, being able to be played on turn 2 occasionally depending on what your hand is. The activate main, if your opponent doesn't respect it and attacks into the card for 5,000, you can counter out and then just have this more than likely for the rest of the game by defending it with blockers. And it's definitely slept on for being used as that activate main ability, but also being a 3 cost allows it to be picked up from Manshari, allows it to be picked up from Rebecca. It's just a fantastic card, being searched from brand new as well. 4k stat line allows it to be pumped up by, Houndblaze to become a 7k swing. It's absolutely fantastic. Running 4 of is a no-brainer. And now this is potentially the most, or not the most, excuse me, the first controversial take of the list. Yet again, what I'm going over first is what I think is the staples of the deck, what you should run, and then there's additions to the deck that you can do. And I think that 3 of Borsalino is a must. Obviously, running 4 is not a bad not a bad thing to do whatsoever, but 3 is a must. If you are going to run 4, which is what I personally do, that's not a problem. But having 3 of this card is just so necessary. There's a lot of decks that want to be able to remove your board, and unless they have the capabilities of bottom decking your cards, then Borino is the greatest blocker in the game. It's so good. And simultaneously being a 6k stat line on your opponent's turn makes this card invaluable, because when you play it on turn 2 and your opponent attacks you for 7, it's an easy rest into a 2k counter to only have to drop 1 card from hand versus potentially having to drop 2. A lot of times I will find myself having 2 of these in hand, and I know that I can cycle it pretty easily if I have a Rebecca or if I have a Manchuri in hand to be able to bring it back. So it's a card that can be used with that leader cycle to get out of hand and then put into trash. And speaking of Rebecca, we're just going to go over some of the blockers now. Obviously Borino, but Rebecca being this is the engine of the deck. Rebecca is getting all of your cards back from trash that you might potentially need, whether that's 3-cost Hina to do some reduction and lowering, whether that's potentially a 2k counter such as Tashigi, whether that's Borino for another block. It's an absolutely invaluable card. This card is insane, and on top of that, having 1k counter, you can't beat it. You can't beat it. The card is so good, and just gets a lot done for you, all for 4 Dawn. And another thing is a lot of people that I shouldn't say a lot of people, but I've seen a lot of times that people forget in many situations that Rebecca can play anything 3 costs or less. So a lot of the times people will kind of tunnel vision into, I have to use this to get Hina from trash and to play Hina, right? Rebecca actually allows you to play brand new rested. You now get to search a card. So you're picking up 1 card from trash, but also playing brand new in your hand, rested, getting to search a card. You're going up 2 cards in hand, and you get a blocker on board as well as a 3k rested. Not bad. Not bad whatsoever. So you didn't go, you know, lower on your hand size that turn. You're also establishing a blocker that's pretty annoying for your opponent to deal with. And overall, I mean, card is fantastic. And now we also have Sabo. Sabo is going to be, this is such an important card for so many matchups. It is not only important for the mirror matchup of Sakazuki, just being able to protect a lot of the cards on board from a potential Luchi play. This is great against yellow because 2 million volts Amaru will not be able to rest it, being a 5-cost character. You can simultaneously protect everything from Thunderbolt in like out of their life or in hand. So Sabo is one of the cards that timing is everything with this card. When you're playing it is going to make or break the rest of your game. And the best part is being able to draw 2 trash too. So you're getting 2 cards into trash that might be useful for the following turn for Rebecca, for potentially Manchuri, but just having this card cycle through some of the counterless cards in your hand so that you can get some counter power, or potentially you're lacking removal and you need to see some. This will really help you get there. And yeah, absolutely fantastic card. I think that 2 of is a necessity. If you wanted to run 3 of, which I have tested, I don't think that that's that bad. I think that it's a little on the greedier end, but I don't mind running 3 of in the Sabo. I just think it's probably one of the most important cards that I run in the list. And then the 1 of Kuzan. Yet again, this is not my list. This is what I think every Sakazuki deck should have. Okay, staple, 100% should have. I personally run 2 Kuzans, but every deck should have 1. I think that this card just being able to draw you a card and replace itself in hand, but then also simultaneously being able to do a -4 effect to a character is just massive. This card eats up yellow. It is the most annoying thing for yellow to have to deal with. So 9 times out of 10 you play this card, they're using Thunderbolt. So you can argue, well, why did I play it if they just Thunderbolted it, and or if they're going to Thunderbolt it. When you played this card, you got to draw one. They had to play a card from hand, and they lost a life. That sounds like a dub to me. That's a no-brainer. So, one of Kuzan, absolutely fantastic. But I personally run 2. I like the card a lot, and it's also a very easy card to pitch from hand. If you don't need it, you can just say, hey, get out of my face, I'm done with you. And yeah, so here we have some of the staples, and let's just go ahead and pick these up. Now let's talk a little bit about some of the rest of the deck, which is a lot of events, but also mostly the removal of the deck. So getting these out of the way, we've got 4 Rob Luchis. I've seen a crazy man run 3 of these. I don't know, teach their own, but not for me. Rob Luchi could potentially see 3 of these in the next set once that new event comes out, but Rob Luchi is just absolutely fantastic, being able to take care of 2 characters on the board, as well as present yourself with a 6k stat line character. It's insane. This card just does so much work, and it eats up a lot of decks. It's very necessary in the mirror matchup. Basically, you're battling for board control the entire game, and whoever runs out of removal first is going to be in a really awkward spot. So Rob Luchi is fantastic in the mirror. It's also incredible into I've personally just been like, this is the card in yellow, being able to deal with a lot of the larger characters on the board, in combination with some cards that I'm going to get to here shortly. But 4 Rob Luchis, also able to be picked up from Manchuri, Rebecca, all that good stuff. And the 4 Hinas, clearly everyone knows Hina. It does the job. 3 cost, 5k power, -4, in combination with Rebecca, just broken combo. Absolutely insane. Being able to -4, establish a blocker, establish an attacker for the next turn, potentially a pseudo blocker as well if they attack into it and you don't feel like giving up your Rebecca. There are situations where it can be like that, and this just becomes that pseudo blocker that they want to attack into, because they can't allow you to have that second swing next turn. This is just, it's fantastic. It's the easiest card to cycle out of your hand and to draw into another one. It's also very, it's very annoying if you don't see the card, because it does help in so many situations. A lot of the times I will hard play the card and then use Houndblaze or use Rob Luchi in combination with, some of the events. But yeah, it really just depends on how much Dawn you have for the turn, what you're going to be working with, and obviously we do need 4 of the Hina. Now, this one might be the second controversial take. I personally think that you should run a minimum of 2 Borsalinos, the 7 cost. I think the card just, it really does a lot for the deck. It puts a very big stat line character onto the board, being an 8k power. Being able to remove a 4 cost or less already off rip is good enough. So with leader effect, it's able to bottom deck a 5 cost character without doing anything. Then you start to include stuff like Hina, Ice Age, Greater Eruption, Suru, Tashigi, what have you. This is bottom decking every card imaginable. And I think that 2 of is like I think it's an absolute must in the list. If you want to have a 1 of, do your thing. I think 2 makes sense. It's also Navy, brand new, finds it. It does the job. Speaking of 2 ofs, we have Manchuri. Manchuri is insane if you can get the cycle going. So if you get to a point, usually speaking, when you're at like 8, 9, 10 Dawn, something like that, if you're able to have board control at that stage of the game, you're able to even potentially just have one blocker, but hopefully two blockers up at that point. Playing down Mancherry, this card will basically never die. They'll have to use some form of effect to remove it, and if you play Mancherry into Sabo right afterwards, the effects can't remove it. So now they have to attack into it, or they have to use like some bottom decking procedure here, or to return it to hand. Mancherry it just allows you to do so much. Being able to get back 2k counters from your hand or from your trash, being able to get back blockers so you can block freely every single turn. For one Dawn, this is absolutely incredible. This is the Bonnie of black, essentially. So Jewelry Bonnie here to pick up every card that we've already used and gained value off of. I think 2 of Mancherry is fine. You could do 3. I tried 3. It felt weird. It felt like I was cycling the card more than I was using it. More often than not, I normally only want to see Mancherry once a game, but I run 2 just to see it once a game, because with the amount of draw power and cycle that you do with this deck, if you run 2 of a card, you're more than likely going to see it. 1 of a card, you can miss it, but most of the time you'll see it. And now into a little bit more removal. Obviously, we've got the Houndblaze. Houndblaze is just a fantastic card. There's not really much to say about it. The card's already broken as is, with being a 2 cost, and you get to go plus 3,000. Already, you're up 1 Dawn just for playing the card. And then to top it off, it has an even better second effect. Being able to bottom deck a 2 cost or less. It's crazy. It's crazy good. Yeah, I mean, the card is... If you're not running 4 of this, I don't know what you're doing. This card is probably going to be a staple in this list for till the end of time. Its strength basically lies in the fact that everything in this deck is going to reduce the cost of your opponent's characters. So being able to easily remove a 9 cost character, a 7 cost, 10 cost character with a 2 cost card, and in conjunction with others in the list, just makes this absolutely insane. And then Greater Eruption. Greater Eruption, 4 of. I couldn't imagine running it any lower than a 4 of. I do think that this card is just way too valuable for the deck. Not only being able to reduce the cost of a character, but being able to draw a card is actually insane for 1 cost. And the trigger... being able forcing your opponent to trash a card it's really upset my opponent's tempo a lot of times, and I think that this has been it's been invaluable to me in almost every single matchup. I love seeing the card. It's also fairly easy to cycle it if you do need to. A lot of times I don't need to, so I usually speaking won't. But yeah, and then its counterpart, the Ice Age. I think 1 of is a must, at least. Run a 1 of, but you can run 2. I personally choose to run 2, but 1 is a must of Ice Age. Just being able to -5 cost to a character, in conjunction with leader ability, you can -6 to anything in 1 single turn, and Houndblaze can get rid of an 8 cost for 3 Dawn. That's gross. That's insane. And then if you start to include Rob Luchi as well into that, being able to get rid of a lot of like multiple characters, it becomes extremely, extremely powerful, very potent. But these are the cards that I believe are a absolute must in the list. And from here is where you start to introduce either additions to some of the 3 ofs or 1 ofs, or you can continue to add some new cards and the top end. And the top end cards that I like to go over, the 3 ofs or 1 ofs that I like to go over that you can add extras to are Kuzan, Borsalino, and Ice Age. Personally speaking, I like to run 4 of the Borsalino. I like to run 2 of the Kuzan, and I like to run 2 of the Ice Age. Ice Age is just this card really does kind of win me games sometimes. Also, the trigger effect is pretty good occasionally, but just being able to KO a 3 cost or less can be really massive. But Kuzan here, being able to draw another card and -4 to a character, this card is so easily cyclable out of hand as well. I can't imagine running it less than 2. I've tried one. It does feel a little weird. I tried actually running 1 of Kuzan and 3 of Ice Age, just because this was a cheaper card, but it felt as though I was cycling this more and not gaining hand size like I would with Kuzan, and forcing my opponent to play around a card. So Borsalino as well, I personally just love this card. There's not really many matchups where I don't even think there's a single matchup where I don't want to play this turn 2 unless I have Kuzan. Then in yellow I'm playing Kuzan down in turn 2. But yeah, Borsalino almost in every single matchup just feels incredible on that turn 2 play. Being able to defend your life and stay up on cards in hand as well is fantastic. So these cards, I do think you can add into some of your others in the list. And now this is also a card that I would love to talk about, is 10 cost Kuzan. Or 10 cost Kaido. 10 cost Kaido. 10 cost Kaido, I have tried so many variations of this deck, and I've actually seen a lot of some of the winning lists that ran 2 of these. I tried 2 of these. I played a lot of games. It felt as though the card was cycled more often than used. Realistically, what I've found is that this card does really well into the mirror matchup, but also into Enel. If you're able to get to a point where you're at about probably like 2 life and you're removing Enel's board constantly, you get them down to 2 life, you're not attacking so that they can get value off of playing a Yamato or something like that. If you're able to get to that point where you can set up maybe like 2 blockers onto your field, when you pass and you can get Kaido down with 1 to 2 life left, it's almost impossible for your opponent to come back from that. It's just devastating. It's actually devastating. In the mirror matchup, it's a little bit scarier. You have to be a little healthy in order to place this card down, or you have to have, quite a board established versus your opponent having, a pretty substantial board established. If they don't have a lot of cards in hand, you can take the gamble that they don't have the removal for some of your blockers, and potentially, them being able to go for game the following turn. But I do think that Kaido is a really amazing card. I choose to run the 1 of in the list, and I will, by the way, I will be posting the full list that I've been trying out lately and that I will be trying out at locals tonight in the description below. But Kaido really does feel more of a 1 of for me personally, but I can totally see running 2. And like I said, all of these cards that we're going to be going over now, these are like, this is what the versatility of this deck is. Being able to swap out a lot of these cards for different for other different cards, and it's still a deck that does the job. It does an incredible job. And 9 cost Mihawk also does that job. I know many of you probably watched a lot of the games that I played at locals where I was running 2 9 cost Mihawks in the deck. I love it. It's a great card. It's very powerful. It's a great turn, especially at 10 Dawn as well. Just being able to use Greater Eruption, Leader Swing, and 9 cost Mihawk to bottom deck any card in the game on the board, it's gone. Just feels fantastic. And you get a 9k attacker onto the board. It also is that 9 cost stat line, which avoids a lot of the 8 cost Katakuri punishment that yellow can provide against, like, let's say the Borsalino. So Borsalino, as much as I talked up this card, oh, I can't even find it. There we go. As much as I talked up this card, it does feel bad sometimes when you just put this card down and then it gets bounced to your life with a cost category. It's not the end of the world, but it does feel a little bit bad. You're like, oh man, I would have really liked for that card to stick. 9 cost Mihawk does stick, and it does work against yellow. It does a really, really good job. So I love this card, and possibly being able to get this card down before yellow plays Enel is very nice. Also in the mirror matchup, forcing a lot of your forcing your opponent to get rid of this is very, a lot of times, a nuisance for them. Mihawk is also great into purple Luffy. Depends on how aggressive they can be or are in the matchup, but you can get this card down to remove their 7 cost Kid, as well as potentially the 9 cost Kaido if they were able to get that down. And they go down in the down 5 Dawn, and now you're just sitting here like, okay, their following turn they should only be at 7 Dawn, and or potentially less, even 6 Dawn the following turn. And if I'm able to use Greater Eruption, Ice Age, whatever, Mihawk onto that, or Kuzan swing from board, it's a very powerful card that does it does some work in a lot of the meta matchups. Now, this is a card I didn't really like at first. 10 cost Kuzan. I felt like it was super expensive, and I understand the idea of getting rid of the entire board essentially with Luchi in the following turn, but it felt really expensive to get this card onto the board and be in a healthy stage in the game, you know, at that point. But I will say, this card just wrecks yellow. That's one matchup where I was like, dang, okay, I understand why some people have ran this card. I don't personally run it in my list, but I totally understand if you're having a lot of yellow matches in your meta or in your, you know, local scene. This is disgusting. It really does some work. It is a costly turn, but it's also, if you're, let's say you're not playing yellow, it's the easiest cycle. Trash it, draw another card. That's the beauty of this deck, and having a lot of these non-counter high-cost cards is, if you're not going to be able to play it, trash it. Trash it, draw something different. That's what's nice. Just being able to cycle out, and yeah, I like this idea a lot. And I think that there's definitely many worlds where I've seen this card work a lot, not only with I've watched some videos of people playing with 10 cost Kuzan, but also simultaneously had a friend of mine that runs it at locals. He runs a weird, like, CP, well, he did used to run a weird CP9 Sakazuki list though, but he ran this card, and sometimes it gave me some trouble. I was like, whoa, all right, I wasn't expecting that. But 10 cost Kuzan is really meant for that anti-yellow. And now 4 cost Ulti. I think that this is a card that realistically I'm putting this in a deck if I feel as though there's just cards that I absolutely 100% need, and I can't find them off of brand new Rebecca or Mancherry. So for example, any of these cards actually. 10 cost Kuzan, 9 cost Mihawk, 10 cost Kaido. If you really feel as though you're bottom decking these a lot through brand new, or you're just not seeing them very often, Ulti is fantastic for that. It's also a 1k counter. It's a very easily cyclable card from hand, and being able to set up your top 2 cards off the top of your deck is fantastic. Another thing is, I had a friend of mine learn this the hard way the other day, is he played Ulti and actually revealed his card to me. And I was like, you don't have to do that, right? That I was shocked that there's actually a good amount of people that I was talking to on my Twitch channel that didn't know that you don't have to reveal the card. It just says if your leader is multicolored, look at 3 cards from the top of your deck, add one to your hand, and then place the rest at the top or bottom. It doesn't say to reveal one. So you do just get to add a card, no matter what the card is, to your hand, and then you can either set up the next 2 cards you draw into, or if you don't like them, just place them to the bottom of the deck. I think Ulti is a absolutely insane card. I don't know how insane it is this set. I haven't played with it very much, but I do think it's an option. I talked about this back at the very beginning of OPO 5. I was like, oh my god, this card is sick, and I think it's going to be truly insane in a future set. I really do. That's why I'm keeping these alt arts, and I know that they're going to be something special. But last 3 cards I wanted to talk about are unique one-ofs. And you can arguably run more than one, but I do think that these are pretty much just kind of unique one-ofs. And the first one being Kobe. I think Kobe has so much usage in this list, and I absolutely love it. I actually run a one-of the Kobe. Getting it out of trash with Rebecca allows you to have a sneaky KO on certain cards. And a lot of the times when you're getting low on cards in hand, your opponent won't believe that you have the removal, but if you have this in trash, you actually do. And yeah, Kobe is fantastic. Just being able to be a 1-cost or a 1k counter as well. I love this as a sneaky little one-of in the deck. And I also just had to get the participant card. It looks so sick. So, such a cool moment. Yeah, but other than that, Bartolomeo. I think Bartolomeo is a sneaky little one-of as well. If you do feel as though you're having trouble with the counter power in the list, you feel as though, oh man, I only have 8k or 8 2k counters, right? This is your 9th, right? You can add a 10th if you want. You could do 2 Bartolomeos, but I like the one. The one of Bartolomeo is really nice. There's also a lot of situations I find myself in at the end of a game where I want to be able to double blocker that turn, but I also wanted to be able to remove a card, and I can't if I do 2 4-cost blockers. So if I do Rebecca, I can pick back up Bartolomeo and do Bartolomeo, and now I've used 7 Dawn. With my remaining 3, I can still use Ice Age and Houndblaze to bottom deck a card, or I can use Greater Eruption, Houndblaze, you know, multiple combinations of things. I could potentially use Kobe for my other 3 remaining Dawn to remove something off the board. And then, last but not least, Isho. I know that this is going to be a very controversial take, but a lot of people have been seeing me test this card on the sim, and playing some of the ranked matches last night, Isho catches people off guard. This is a sleeper of a card. I run a one-of right now, just testing it out, and basically this this card has been my answer to really annoying Enel matches. So I'll be able to put this card down. I get 2 cards out of their hand because they always just take life, and if they don't get a trigger every single turn, then more times than not they have like 8-9 cards in hand, especially if they get a Shirahoshi or something like that. So putting this card down, I get 2 cards out of hand. Optimistically, I get 8-cost Katakuri or 9-cost Yamato. If I don't, I'm not that worried about it. And if they do the following turn use 8-cost Katakuri to put this into my life, I got 2 cards out of their hand, 1 that they just played out of their hand, and I gained a life. It's sick. If they don't remove it, this is a Dawn X1 -3 to their entire board, and now Luchi is KOing everything. Everything. Like, there were so many combinations that I had with this card that was just fantastic, and it also didn't feel like too committal, if I will. Like, you're committing a lot with a 10-cost Kuzan sometimes, and yes, you might be getting a character off the board, but it also does worry me occasionally that, you know, either the card gets removed or I just don't have any Dawn left over for another play. And Isho allows me to attach Dawn to characters to be, you know, to pressure them and to potentially get more cards and resources out of their hand and or life, and allows me to swing 7 with leader if I need to into a rested character. It's just a fantastic card. I think it's a sleeper. I've really been enjoying it, and yeah, that's going to be what I wanted to talk about with the Sakazuki list. all in all, I think this is such an insane leader. I think that the endless combination of deck lists that you can use with this just makes it so much fun to play, because you really can just play it however you want to. And as much as I did say that, you know, all of these are like must-haves, you can change stuff out. I personally, I don't see where I would change a lot of these cards and feel good about it. But yeah, if you want to see my full list that I've been testing out, I will have it in the description below. Again, would love to hear your thoughts, guys, and you know, what do you guys run as far as some of your top end in the list? And you know, I think that there's a lot of fun cards in here. It's an incredible deck, and yeah, Sakazuki out. Hope you guys have a good day. Take care. Peace.